Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Unlock the Secrets to Attracting and Retaining Top Talent. We're excited to have Amber Huff from Hireology and Eliza McCoy from AHLA leading today's session. We'll give it about 60 seconds for attendees to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Eliza, what we're waiting on everybody. You want to see where everybody's joining us from
Oh
today?
yeah, let's see where people are coming in from. Yep.
Throw it in the chat. I'm wondering if anybody is having some of that fun weather.
Oh yeah.
Oh goodness, yeah, it seems to really be rocking. All right, Chicago, Ohio. Got some in Nashville.
Nashville.
Oh, love it. One of my favorites. All right. Okay. And Eliza, you are in DC.
I am just outside DC, technically Alexandria, Virginia. I'm only seeing some of the chat, so you'll have to keep me updated.
Okay.
Saw the Nashville, but none of the others for some reason. So
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely. Yep. And I'm coming to you live from glorious Carmel, Indiana. So it's rainy and stormy here. So just hoping that this will all go smoothly. But let's go ahead and get started. It's at 3:02 Eastern time. So like Tara said, we're coming to you today to talk about unlocking the talent. I am Amber Huff. I am the Director of Hospitality Partnerships here. My role is uniquely focused on the hospitality industry and how Hireology's expertise can support partners like AHLA in the changing landscape of the human capital.
great. I'm Eliza McCoy, Vice President of Programs and Impact at the AHLA Foundation, which is part of the American Hotel and Lodging Association's enterprise. We focus on social and community impact to support the workforce in the hospitality industry and combine efforts with companies like Hireology to give these kind of insights to both employers and potential workforce participants. So excited to be here today and chat this through.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, now just a little bit of housekeeping, a quick note before we get started. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Eliza and I like to make these things interactive and engaging, so please don't hesitate. Okay, so during our time together today, what we're going to cover is the current state of the job market and the unique, economic pressures and challenges that you all are facing today in hotels. We'll also walk through how these factors might be affecting your daily operations and then obviously your staffing needs. Then we'll dive into our latest research. Hireology and AHLA partnered together to conduct a survey to uncover exactly what top talent in the hotel industry is looking for in both their work as well as their job search. And then finally, we'll discuss what it takes to attract and retain the top talent in this highly competitive labor market.
Great, thanks. So really to help us set the stage today, I'm going to give some high-level trends that we know nationwide in our industry, but really I'm also going to look for some insights in the chat from all of you to see if these are things you're seeing reflected in your local markets or anything different that you may be experiencing. So just to begin, overall, we know, and you can go to the next slide for me, Amber, thanks.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect. So we know we've been talking for quite some time about our critical labor shortage in the hospitality industry. And what we're finding now in the most recent surveys, it's becoming less critical. There's still a labor shortage, but closer to the 70% mark than the highest we were seeing, about 86 to 90% just post-COVID. We're also seeing nationwide, and this is really across all industries, but average wage of all-time high at $23 an hour. And that's in 2023. So 2024 is still pending, seeing these ups and downs. We also hear quoted a lot this low unemployment rate and historically low. We know that's a game of ratios, how many jobs available to how many people applying actively, but certainly very good indicators that we are on an upswing or looking towards the positive coming out of COVID. And we know that the top markets for hospitality are ones that are not going to surprise you by any means. And I think at any given time, we have about 100,000 openings nationwide across the industry. And you see here the different ones in the roles that we're speaking about specifically that have the most proportion of those openings. Curious if you can put in the chat if these are similar to what you're seeing on property or within your company, or if there are any that stand out as just consistently a challenge to fill at the rate necessary. Also curious for you to share if there are any here that you're not experiencing that issue with, because again, with the industry-wide, nationwide landscape, it definitely can vary market-wide. We see anything come through in the chat? Remember, there we go. Servers, yes. F&B, yep. Yeah.
Pretty much all.
Yeah, all of these open. The reason I put on the right these top consumer preferences, this is, again, what we're trying to do here is blend a variety of different data sources to help you inform your role and the activities you're taking in the hiring space. And the top consumer preferences as of late also shouldn't surprise you. Guest room property cleanliness, friendly staff. But what that led to is this increasingly, I would say, expansive role of guest relations and complaint resolution, right? The people whose job is only to ensure that guests are feeling well served and well supported. And that's a new role within the industry to be at scale. And so we're certainly seeing a shortage there. It's a tough one to get people to want to do, but one that is clearly very necessary to hit the top marks on those key consumer preferences.
Great.
All right. So really excited that with this high level perspective in mind, which is what we can bring to this conversation from the membership association, but at the same time, it's important that we understand the perspective of the candidates, right? This is a situation where in our industry and anyone, when you're selling a product, you're looking at your target audience and what they're looking for and what the market is like out there in order to sell it effectively. And so really excited to be partnering with Amber and the team at Hireology to get very clear and updated insights into what candidates and those who are seeking employment and then staying employed in the hospitality industry. So I'll let Amber dive in those details, but excited to hear.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Eliza. Yeah, so as we mentioned, Hireology and AHLA surveyed applicants for hospitality jobs with the core idea in mind. So how can we learn more about the motivations and the needs of today's job seeker to help you as the hotelier hire the right people? We also sought to understand what they expect in the application and the hiring process, what motivates them to choose an employer or even a role, and ultimately, what makes them stay loyal to this industry and to your hotels. We'll share some insights from the study, and with that goal in mind, hopefully you'll take back a few nuggets to your hotels that you can implement immediately that will make your recruiting, hiring, talent operations, your competitive advantage in the market. Okay, so this is part of the study data, and this is a very astonishing stat for me. 90% of hospitality applicants are actively looking for work, but of those 90% who are actively looking, 60% apply to over 16 jobs, meaning you're immediately competing with 15 other businesses. Later on, we'll discuss how response times and other important factors are just mission critical to recruiting and retaining those top talent that you're seeking. But now let's talk about how to, ensure that you are not only one of the 16, but you're also the one that they accept an offer from. So when an applicant is doing their research, in order to stand out, we know that we need to focus on these three top components. Now, at the top, 68% need clear job descriptions. So maybe in the chat, here's a question for you. What are your job descriptions currently like? Have you looked recently? When was the last time you updated job descriptions? Also curious, is anyone using AI to perform job descriptions? And then followed by 58%, they're putting a great importance on obviously benefit and comp details, So make sure you're displaying that clearly. And then 45% want to see an obvious picture of career growth opportunities. I mean, hospitality, I think, is one of the best fields, if not the best, for opportunities. You know, you start at the bottom, you can be GM in no time. So you really need to be able to show those real life examples, and Eliza will talk to that a little bit later on.
So what we're really talking about is you're trying to sell a product, available jobs in your hotel and on property in a highly competitive market where it feels like in some ways the applicant has all of the power. You're competing in the same way that you're thinking about how your hotel is competing as a place to stay. This is how is your company and your property competing to get the right talent in the door and keep them there. And so it's a sales and marketing game. And we're going to walk through a few of the key pieces in that process and in that mindset that you should be taking into account and adjusting both your recruiting and hiring processes to meet that. To the next. So out of the survey that Hireology completed, these are the top 3 criteria that would encourage someone to apply to the job. Because we used to think it was just salary, right? And it's now moved far beyond just how much you're paying. But they want to know that it's a place where they feel a sense of belonging and feel valued as an employee. They want to know that they have flexibility in a couple of different key areas that Amber's going to talk about. But that's certainly something we've seen as a trend post-pandemic for everybody, right? And what does that flexibility look like, or what are they looking for? And then the third most frequent thing that would encourage individuals to apply is knowing that there is a path once they enter employment with you for them to grow in their career. And providing insights into those pathways is absolutely critical to ensuring that you're capturing their attention in this piece. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. So when employees are thinking, okay, I'm applying to these 16 companies, how am I differentiating which one I actually want to proceed with when they call me? And first things first, they're looking at your website and Glassdoor or a similar sort of rating site to see if the culture that you are displaying publicly is one that they would feel comfortable in. And I think this is really critical to think about the ways in which we can thread company culture, not just on your website, and we'll see an example on this next page, because when you're doing it well on your website, you're going to have pictures, testimonials, you're going to have a mix of media. And we have an example here to share. The version that applicants really respond to is multimedia, right? They want to see the people that they'll be working alongside, and they want to know that their experiences are like theirs and that they'll fit in. Website, obviously a great place. I would imagine most of you, and actually, in fact, I'll ask that for the chat. How many of you have employee testimonials on your website, particularly on the hiring and recruitment portion of your website? Let us know if there are ones that you're particularly proud of, because we do love to share within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's equally as critical that you're thinking about where else besides your recruiting portion of the website. Looking for some ideas here from the group in the chat about how you can convey your company culture throughout the recruitment and hiring and into onboarding process. Anybody have a way or a strategy that they're doing it along that pipeline besides showing it on your website? We'll give you a minute to chime in. I know it's Friday, guys. I know.
Yeah. This really is a critical piece, right? I mean, it can set you apart, or it can make you seem like that it's not important to your company. So, and we all know that once they decided to look at your property, they're going to immediately go to the website. So how are you all displaying it? And if it's an easy digestible video or testimonial, that's the most impactful for sure.
Right. I'll give a couple of examples from some recent leadership exchanges that we've had with HR professionals. Certainly sharing it on social media. We hear that all the time. Regular content that you're sharing, again, faces and stories that display your culture or embody it, because the employees want to see and feel that deeply. And then also we know that we're seeing it when people do onboarding, right? There's an opportunity when that person first sets foot on your property as an employee to show them exactly the culture in action. And so thinking about all of those steps along the way as opportunities to showcase and highlight your culture, it's absolutely critical, since that's one of the top reasons applicants stay.
Absolutely. Okay. Now let's jump into a second aspect, which is flexibility. I don't know about you guys, but the word flexibility to me is like unprecedented in 2021. So when you see the word flexibility, what does it mean to you? How are you providing flexibility to your employees? What's working well for you? And if you'd like to throw examples of these in the chat to share with the group, please do. But some things that we've heard are things like a compressed work week. Can employees have like a 4-day sprint or a few days off? Or can they do longer shifts perhaps to take care of family? Same thing with like flex time. Can they manage their own schedules or to match a spouse or a family member to help with childcare, for instance? How do they submit those specific schedules that work best for them? Think like the summer months when school is off versus winter. Do you change their schedules? Extra PTO. We heard this at a leadership exchange recently as well. Offering extra PTO, especially helpful if increasing the pay is cost prohibitive. What kind of investment as an employer can you make on your PTO policy? And actually what they were finding was they were offering the extra PTO, the employees were still working, and then just collecting that PTO payment at the end of the year. And finally, can you provide pay flexibility for any type of on-demand pay? And I'm curious if anybody out there is using an on-demand type pay. Is it same-day pay? What successes have you had with that? And then obviously all those factors are ways you can show flexibility. You don't have to do them all, but I think a good starting point is to talk to your current employees. Ask if there's any way that you can illustrate this flexibility that you're not currently. As we all know, happier employees tend to stay longer, therefore creating more attractive employee proposition.
Great. All right, so we've talked about culture, we've talked about flexibility. Now we also know from the insights of this survey that applicants want to know, if I come work for you, what does the next 12 to 24 months look like? It's a very specific landscape they're looking to understand in order to make the decision to take the position that you may offer them. And it's important that you are very clear from the very beginning in the job descriptions or in your policies that are listed, any way that you can indicate that career growth and the pathways that are available. And you can give those through an example of success stories, right? Those testimonials can be ones really focused on that story of an individual who has experienced career growth. And it doesn't necessarily have to be career growth in terms of their role, that they've been promoted from dishwasher to CEO, right? It can mean somebody who talks about training that they received that really made them look at the world differently. So that growth can be displayed in a lot of different ways. And we want to make sure that as they're thinking about the role that you are presenting to them, they know that that advancement is on an automatic path, right? It's not going to be, well, once you get here, we'll talk about that. It's that it's pre-planned, that you have those opportunities thought through, and that they're authentic. It's okay that you don't have an entire pathway spelled out for every position that you're hiring for, but that culture of advancement and the ways in which they're looking for that from the very beginning is really important, that you're responding to that and how you market your position. If you can go to the next page, I want to offer a quicker slide, I guess it is, a quick additional tool in this space. We've worked with a partner also with Lightcast, which is a different data source from across the industry. And they have a dashboard. I always think that word oddly, dashboard, data, Tableau, right? Whatever it's called, that shows for the various roles within the industry, what were the positions that preceded that role, or what are the positions that typically follow that role? And this data and this information is freely available. We have one particular report that I show here that does a snapshot in time of these from 2023, but we also have the ability to access this data real time. And as an example here on the screen, you see for a front desk agent, you're most often going to move into a front desk supervisor, a front desk manager, but there's also a pathway where you see people moving into assistant general manager. We have the reverse of this data for when you're looking to advance people within your company that shows if you're hiring for this, you should be looking at these roles because they're most likely to have the preceding skill set necessary. So integrating and threading these conversations about pathways is really integral in your hiring process. And these are just some examples of how to do that.
Yeah, I think this is a really useful data to have, especially the latter,
Yeah.
like where to source those roles. That would help in your recruiting process, right? Going and looking at that to see potentially what some of your candidates were before, what roles they were in before. Yeah, I think this is great data. Now, does AHLA provide this data?
Yes, we'll send the link in a follow-up email or make it available, but ahlafoundation.org, you will find a link to this study as well as ways to find this data real time through Lightcast. And again, I think I want to always remind everyone on this because I feel like we're talking about the industry as a monolith, like the industry, but the fact is we all have very different business sizes and structures. And so it's not that you have to do all of these at 150%, otherwise you're not going to be able to hire. It's pick what is one improvement in this space that you can make that's reasonable, right? If you do have testimonials on your website, but none of them talk about advancement within the company, switch one out. Replace it with something where someone's talking about a training or how they moved up in the company. So just an example of how you can scale these efforts to what's reasonable for your company.
Great point. Absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've talked about, what goes into designing the right job, how you put it out into the world for applicants to see, what applicants care about beyond just the pay, and how to showcase that. Now let's talk about once they've applied, what the process needs to look like. Okay, another great slide with some interesting data. Now these figures prove that applicants have very high expectation and very low tolerance for a lengthy, clunky process. In fact, 73% gave up because the application was taking too long to complete. I mean, you're one of 16. If someone's going to apply for a housekeeping role and it takes more than a few minutes, they're going to go to the next opportunity. 58% didn't apply because they were asked to repeat information in their resume. So you're asking me to list my last 3 jobs in an application, but you're also asking me to upload my resume. Like, why are we asking both? And finally, why would you make someone create a username and password for a job application? If I have to create a username and password and remember something else, the 900th thing, it's likely if I have a different option, I'm going like next. I'm just username, password, no, bad. So you're cutting off almost 60% of your applicant pool because of this. 46% didn't apply because they were required to create an account and log in. So your goal should be to maximize your chances of connecting with this top talent in the market. You can't afford to lose these potential applicants because your application process is too lengthy. So think about your own experience as a consumer, how frustrated you'd be. If it took very long to, get to your coffee app or sign into Wi-Fi. It's the same mindset for today's applicants.
Right. I want to sort of throw in here too. We recognize that a lot of those system settings have been designed that way to help the business on the next steps, right? You want that information in the beginning so that your payroll company doesn't have to ask those questions later once you've hired them. So there's a reason that has come about, right? But the center of that reasoning was the company. And what we're talking about is flipping it. And those are things you can get later, right? And so why impede your process to get them sooner if instead what we really need to do to make the difference is make it easy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for adding that. You're absolutely right. And this is another way to make it easy for them to apply. As part of our study, 59% of the applicants are using a smartphone or tablet to apply for jobs. So, if you're competing with 15 other jobs out there, you've got to have a mobile first experience to capture the majority of those applicants. Now, here's an example. On the left is an application from one of our customers. It's got the first name, last name, address, optional contact information, 5 fields, done. Super easy. On the right is another application that we've seen, and we always say it looks like a tax form. So thinking about having to type out all that information on your Android, because I'm an Android person, about previous history. It's a frustrating process that we can own and control. So here's a little bit of homework. Like, go to your career site, go to apply to a job. How easy or difficult, perhaps, is it to do these things? Do you have more than the 5 fields? Are you requiring a username and password? If those are things that you're doing now, I would consider, changing those up so you are not missing out on majority of the applicants.
Yeah, actually, I'll extend that homework a little bit further, because one of the things I really like about these webinars is people take away tidbits, but then it's hard to find time to share those with others to benefit your team. So do that in a team meeting with your HR team, right? And really go through that exercise with them so they're feeling this teaching point about how arduous that can be alongside you, because it really does kind of help to change that mindset.
Yeah, it really drives it home when you see, and in fact, when we do these leadership exchanges too, I'll literally go on their website and at the break, I'll be like, did you have a chance to look at your website? And most people, everybody's so busy doing a million different things. You just don't think about that stuff, right? And this could be part of the biggest reason why you're not getting those quality candidates.
Right. So if it's something you can change relatively easily, why not?
Right, exactly.
Right. Well, so we've talked about designing the job. We've talked about how to make it easier to apply. Now let's get some insights about that transition into a candidate being in your hiring pipeline. Because I think these are some of the most light bulb moments for me, though I guess I should probably assume, and we talk about lots of changes in generations, that technology is speeding things up. We want things, quick and fast. But this so surprised me when you all shared this the first time that I saw it. So almost 90% of the applicants, they want to be interviewed, not heard from, not acknowledged. They want to be talking to you in an interview within a week or less.
Right.
And then along the process pipeline, they want to hear, about 70% of them want to hear from you no less than every 2 to 3 days. I mean, that to me is mind blowing. And a question for the group is whether or not you are tracking these numbers and these timeframes within your own companies. Do you know how long it takes between application and interview? Right? You probably know the frequency with which you reach out, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, it's nowhere near every 2 to 3 days. But that's an important metric, because with some improvements there, you're going to see an immense ROI with who is going to stick with you and go into employment. So if you're doing it well, it's going to be a competitive edge to all those other 16 jobs that they're applying for. But if you don't know, you don't even know how to make this better. So really important that you're thinking about the ways you can track this metric and then benchmark.
Yeah, totally. And do you have, in your solutions that you're using, are there things in place that will help keep, like I said, everybody's doing a million jobs, keep your hiring managers on task? Okay, like if you haven't touched this in an hour, you really got to get to these. Something that sends an automated message when an applicant comes through. Those are the types of things that will help you stay in communication with these, the top candidates that are brought to the top in your ATS. And it's known that, hey, you need to pay attention to these first. And then, 2 to 3 days. I mean, most people that I've spoken to, like, they want to be heard from, hear from an employer every day.
Every day.
And in fact, I always say too, there's no such thing as over communication. So, yeah, really, really key points.
Yeah, what's interesting about this too, that I thought about later after we had our last leadership exchange, is the fact that we're not saying that what you have to communicate to them, right? It's not that you have to say you've made progress in their application process. It can simply be acknowledgement.
Mhm.
And so again, to that automated piece, it doesn't have to be that it's lined with where they're going to go next. You can simply have an automated message or texting system or other way of acknowledging that just says, we're still working on this, looking forward to meeting you. Anything that is just sort of giving them that added value that you're paying attention. Go back to the culture opportunity, right? How can you display this at every turn? Here's a great way to do it.
Absolutely, 100%. And now, we're going to go on to the next fun thing. You've done all the right things. We've talked about the urgency and frequency expected from a candidate, but the reality is they still ghost. And maybe in the chat, are you all out there still having the challenges with ghosting? You notice any, change recently, better, worse, and perhaps what are you doing to address it? One of the biggest frustration for employers is being ghosted, obviously. But when you take a look at why this happens, it's pretty clear. And there are things that we can control, right? So the number one reason cited by 43%, of our applicants is that, there's a lack of communication and transparency, to Eliza's point. If a candidate feels like they're being left in the dark, they're just going to lose interest and drop out and go on to the next person. And 35% say they ghosted because the hiring process took too long. Again, to our previous points of you've got to get to them quickly, stay in communication. People expect things to move quickly. That's just the world that we live in. So if your process is dragging, they'll just move on. And finally, 34% say that they ghosted because the company seemed disorganized or unprepared. Having those touch points, like Eliza said, shows that you're organized, that your interest is there. So this can be a miscommunication, also scheduling hiccups, or just a lack of clear direction, perhaps from the part of the employer.
Yeah, it's funny when I was thinking about ghosting, and I mean, we all hear that term in so many different contexts, but it's always like, they ghosted. And then I looked at these and went, oh, we're pushing them to ghost because they're looking at culture indicators. They're looking at, are you valuing me as a potential employee? Are you taking the time to get to know me? Are you responsive, right? Are you organized so that the support provided through HR is consistent and communicative? No wonder that if we're not doing those things right, they're not going to bother. And they're competing against 15 others that can do it differently, even incrementally, right?
Yep, 100%. So yeah, to your
I
point,
see
like,
Brianna in the chat said ghosting is the norm. Yep, that's definitely a consistent thing that we hear. So here's some good indications of how maybe you can see some incremental differences with that if you're changing a few things.
Right.
Curious to see if it works.
Yep. Okay, so you've done all this work to get these people to apply for your positions, go through the process and communicate with them effectively. And you've done such a great job at building that your brand and looking to build your candidate database. So we're going to show you some of the ways that you can actually build off the success that you've had of doing all the steps to get those candidates in your pipeline as a way to fill your pipeline, because we know that we can't hire everyone, but there are always, well, hopefully from these implementations that you'll have quite a full funnel to pull upon, and you can build that database up. Okay, these are another great staggering group of statistics. And I think that these speak to like the obvious willingness of a job seeker to reconsider a role or a company or even return as a previous employer. In Hireology, we call them boomerangs, and we have quite a few of those actually. So it pays to have that database and not discount anyone that's been there in the past. So some ways to build your candidate database in addition to that are, develop a structured employee referral program. I know a number of hospitality folks out there have an employee referral program, but how are you tracking it? What are the ways that you're promoting it? Because you know that an employee referral, it's not only the most cost-effective way of building your candidate pool, but they tend to stay longer and they perform at higher levels. staying longer on both the employee that's referred and the referral to stay longer. So it's a key piece, and I think there are a number of ways that you can really develop that employee referral program. I mean, out and about, we hear people talk about they have their business cards and they are at dinner or at an event and they notice someone that's really, really great at their job, really did a wonderful job serving them. And they'll give them their card and it has a QR code on it. And like, hey, if you're interested in taking a look at hospitality on the hotel side, give me a call. And then it has a link that goes directly to the candidate process to get it started. So,
and the internal benefits we hear really vary too. It's an incentivization of these referral programs, right? We hear where some who solicit referrals and kind of get people in the door, get PTO, they get an additional sort of financial benefit. And in some, it's just acknowledgement being shown on the company website or in the employee break room that they're bringing people on board. But you're right, it does turn around in spades because both of them end up staying longer.
Right, exactly. And there are tons of ways to be able to promote your employee referral. Like we even do a weekly company meeting where we'll put it up on our on our screens, and then there's a referral bonus for that referred employee. So yeah, key piece. And there are definitely benefits to streamlining that and rewarding that. Another way is like building relationships with past applicants, like I said, and employees. Maintain that database of qualified talent. So you get them into the solution and they may, for whatever reason, they're 17 and then, it would have been great for this position. So you rate them with like a silver rating and keep them in the database and then make a point to reach back out. Really filling that database with like a second runner-up or whatever to have that database to pull upon, and it will help reduce the hiring time and the costs for your future open roles as well.
I keep thinking about too, the fact that opportunity of reaching back out to your pool is I was thinking of it as a recovery opportunity. So even if your process wasn't ideal for them when they started and you either didn't hire them for whatever reason, or they didn't accept a position because they went with another company, when you're coming back to them, it's an opportunity to recover that brand and that interest in your position. And so this time, making sure that you've made some improvements in your process can really help. And you're already doing that by making it easy for them to apply because you're saying, we are already interested in you. So very much.
And we saw by the stats, like they're open to it. 80% of them are really open to listening and being heard from a previous candidate. Yeah, experience.
Absolutely. So just to quickly kind of summarize the top pieces here that I want to make, we both are sort of honing in on and want you to walk away from in this presentation, is that it's not just about salary. It's not just about the wage that you're offering. It's a lot about culture, belonging, the ways in which people feel like as employees, their values align with that of the company, and all the different ways that can show up throughout your process. And it's because what we know the candidates are doing is they're looking at your website, they're looking at your board list, they're looking at what you look like on glassdoor.com, right? They're also asking friends who have worked there. So all of those are components in their decision making, and you need to be showing up well in all of those places. No surprise, we're just going to double down on this speed thing. Now, the key here is, and I know, ability to be fast is based on many different factors, including how large of a team, what technology tools you have in place. But again, really honing in on the fact that incremental changes here are important. And if you're timing that with staying in contact, then you're even better, right? So even if you can't speed up your process, by 50%, you can at least speed it up a little bit and make sure you're communicating along the way to make up for that lack of speed, right? Because I'm more willing to hang in there if somebody's texting me and saying, we're still working on it, but trust us, we're interested, or stay tuned. All of that, it goes a long way. And no surprise, I feel like this is a no-brainer, but this mobile first communication, whether it is the listings themselves being easy to find and easy to navigate on mobile, or if it's the communication throughout that pipeline. Again, I think we know this, but I think most of us, or what we see in these leadership exchanges, is that we haven't gone and looked at it ourselves in quite some time. So just putting on that hat and trying it to see how far you are off the mark on that mobile first communication is really important. And I think provides a lot of insight to motivation to improve.
And I think in addition to that, by mobile, we also mean like texting, and this is always a fun
Yep.
exercise we do, Eliza. Like, how many personal emails do you have that are unread? And I'll just go ahead and say I'm usually the person that has the most. I think it's
Yeah.
at 285,000.
This is what I really want to see in the chat. I want to see people put in here the unread
How many unread?
emails. Personal inbox, how many unread emails? This is where Amber and I either are validated or look like we are just off the charts with our unread. But in your personal inbox, how many unread messages right now?
Right, right. And the reason we're asking is, you know, I can go right now and look to see how many unread text messages. I have 0. I keep up on that. I immediately respond to that. And in fact, when I'm either talking to clients or, you know, having internal discussions and like, yeah, just shoot me a text message. Like that is where I will go to. That's what I pay attention to.
Dina,
That's what's
92.
always with me. Like if you need me, you want to get my attention, you want to communicate with me most effectively, send me a text message. Do not send me an email to my personal email because it will get lost in the 200,000 plus.
Yeah, so I don't have 0 text messages. I also have some unread text messages that I'll admit to, but it's far less. And see, Carolyn is making me feel a lot better with
Yes.
24,000. Dina, oh man, Dina, do you have less texts too? Like, is it 92 personal, which is fabulous, but then text 0, or is it about equal? Curious. But I'm definitely much more on the Carolyn and Amber side, which is why Amber and I text more than we email.
Forget the emails.
Girl unread and work, but
see, there we go.
Personal, right? Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, being able to communicate with them through a text, which is their preferred method of communication, that you need to be able to do that as well. Wait, what? How does your smartwatch helps? How does that happen?
Does it just ding you and you can click it and show it as read or delete it? Now, I can't not get distracted by it, but I guess you could be sitting somewhere and scroll it and delete.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Great technique.
Oh, you answered your watch too.
Oh, impressive.
High tech, yes.
Great.
All right.
Well, so if you guys have enjoyed just hearing some of these snippets today, it really is just a chance to see the value of these insights, right? It's a combination of the data and stories that we come across. And frankly, the information that we are sharing with you is oftentimes coming from things like these leadership exchanges. I think we've said it several times, even like that one in Nashville or at that one in DC. These are in-person opportunities to be amongst your peers in the HR space and talk about these issues and what you're seeing and share strategies. I mean, most of what I see come out of these leadership exchanges that we co-facilitate are opportunities for people like, oh, I never thought to try that. Oh, what system do you use for this? And really getting an opportunity to mastermind as a peer set and share tips and tricks, and to commiserate on some of these things like ghosting. So we have 2 more left this year, very exciting, in Chicago and Las Vegas. We'd like to have everyone for dinner the night before, so there's some camaraderie and opportunity to meet each other before you spend the day talking through, again, these various data points and including a whole section on AI and how to use that effectively, even in sort of what I call rookie ways, right? You don't have to be varsity to figure out ways to utilize AI in these processes. So feel free, we're going to send out information after to register for these or share them with peers or colleagues on your team that might be available and want to come and learn more and activate more around these pieces that we've shared.
Yeah, it really is a great opportunity for you to get together with your peers and just to meet more people. Every city that we go to, it creates almost like this little group that they will then afterwards continue to trade, you know, ideas or, hey, this is happening in my area. What are you seeing? What's working? What's not? It is a great group of about 20 some people per event, and everyone seems to find it beneficial. And it gives us an opportunity to really understand what's going on firsthand and then be able to communicate back to you in these events.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think ultimately both AHLA, the foundation, Hireology, what we do is for all of you. So we benefit as much from these exchanges to be in a small group, kind of focus group environment, and to hear, because as we're developing products and programs and resources and tools, we want to know what you're really faced with. I mean, we can take data all day, but there's always more we're learning about how we can help in your business.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so that's a wrap on all the exciting information that we have. We will open the floor to some questions. You can throw them in the chat or the Q&A.
I know this is always my favorite part when you're waiting for people to like chime in, but
Yeah, yep,
give it a minute.
yep. Eliza, what does the foundation have that can help with
So,
the
really with the foundation, we look at resources and support we can provide from all the way from introduction to the industry all the way through to advancement. And so we have a fabulous website we support called the hotelindustry.com that if your website is sort of on the lower end of sharing testimonials about advancement in the industry, this website is a great place to see from a variety of different companies and markets what the hotel industry has to offer in terms of career pathways. Similarly, the data version of that, but hotelindustry.com is the storytelling version of that. So we share that here, but also with schools and parents and others as we work to change the perception about this industry. So people really understand the opportunities there are here to grow. We also have apprenticeship programs and women's leadership development classes. We have conferences for the same. So just a lot of different opportunities to use resources that we develop in things like this in partnership with companies like Hireology, as well as academic institutions that we work with and provide scholarships to. So our role really is to sit at this nexus of the business of the hospitality industry and the communities and people where we all work and live. And we're always looking to engage more. So please feel free to follow up. My contact information will be there as well.
Yeah, and not to bring up the leadership exchange again, but I'm going to. We heard, real life examples of how some of these management companies or hotels have utilized your services and seen great success with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's there. It's for you as hoteliers to take advantage of. And I think, letting the hotel world know that they're available is a great way for them to go and research what else they can do just to supplement.
Absolutely. And to tell us what you're looking for and what you need too. We're
Oh,
always
there you go.
that
Okay,
information too.
perfect. One other question. Will you be attending the AHLA Hospitality Show in San Antonio next month?
We'll be there, be square, as we used to say. Hospitality show in San Antonio at the end of October. Information can be found on our website. Hireology will be there, all of the companies across the industry, and there's a lot of different content. We're going to have some stages with panels. We're going to have interactive networking sessions. We're even going to have booths where there are students who will be there from a variety of different HBCUs from around the country that are there looking to be introduced to the industry and the people that support it. So definitely a fun place to be. And I think it's October 28th to 30th, but don't quote me on it. But San Antonio.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, and we actually have our CEOs speaking on some panels, but it is a unique event in the sense that it's not just a big trade show. It's not just thought leadership. It's a combination of all these things. And it's not just focused on one area of hospitality. You got operations, you've got the hiring, you've got every piece of hospitality in one location. And it really is, it's a great opportunity to go to one place, see everything, get industry updates, and take back things that you can use immediately. So,
Great.
okay, any suggestions on country club industry and support on that end? Eliza, do you deal with country clubs and stuff? I know we have.
That's a good question. So on the membership side, I'll have to chat with them about particular resources in that space, but sort of I would think it would fall under a little bit of our resort committee area. I think, and again, it's a different beast, but I think the career pathways data that I was talking about, you're going to find a lot of info there that would directly correlate, particularly to the types of roles that you're going to find in the country club environment, like lifeguard and gym assistant and childcare, that you may not see in some other types of properties. And that can illuminate for you where to recruit from for those positions and then how to advance people from those. So I would definitely say to check that out because it has enough there that differentiates between these types of companies. And I can think further about other things and talk to our membership side and follow up. So thanks, Anne.
Yeah, and thank you for the question. We can follow up additionally on that. That looks like the end of our questions, unless there's anyone else out there. We
We got a question from Spencer, actually. It's in the Q&A section, but I'll go ahead and
Oh, I
read
see.
it loud. With a simpler application process, how do you determine or differentiate serious candidates from those who quick apply to multiple jobs and the job may not be a top choice?
Ooh, helpful. Do you want to start on that, Amber? Or you want me to?
I could not hear that. Let me hold on. Okay.
So I think, yeah, the question is about when you know that people, what do they call it?
Yep.
Sometimes shotgun applying, right? How are you
Yep.
differentiating that?
Gray,
When you,
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. We actually have in our solution the ability to quickly assess and prioritize the applicants. So based on a few assessment questions at the beginning, then you will absolutely know quickly, okay, this meets all the requirements. It's at 100%, and it's based on a percentage. So then based on percentage, your hiring manager will have that immediately available, being the top down. So if they answer, 4 out of 5, they're gonna get 80% or whatever, but that allows you to be most efficient and effective with the time that you have to go in and say you have 100 applicants, focus on 20 right now. So yes, it has the ability to, through an assessment, prioritize them based on a score.
Yeah. Is any AI solution involved in those kind of pieces, right?
And then you can have it set up where it automatically will reply. Yeah, there are a number of ways that we can automatically then address those top candidates.
I would say manually for those of us who still don't have a solution technologically for this. It's a lot of looking at language. I mean, the AI component of our conversation of the leadership exchange talks a lot about how can you tell when someone's chat GPT generated this versus they put time and thought and energy. And we know, they're going to do that when they want a particular job. So I think those have some helpful hints in that space, but it is a lot about seeing the language and seeing sort of how, I don't know what the right word is, cookie cutter the information is in there. If they are sending you a resume with 24 positions they've held in the last 6 years, you know that they didn't think to trim it down to what's relevant. So I think that's can be an easy indicator.
And to that point, in our solution, you have the ability to see a candidate comes through, maybe they've applied 10 times before. So there is an actual like visual piece it looks like a little person and it's a times 10. So you know immediately that this person has applied numerous times. And then when you click on the times 10, it'll tell you why they were rejected before. So that's also a way to kind of weed those out quickly as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer.
I'm going to click that button, answered live. Look, that feels fun. I didn't want an unopened message in that box because I'm going,
we'll see.
bad record.
Yep. All right. Any other questions for us out there? I think we're all set.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of anything after the fact, we are going to follow up. Yes, with the deck today with information. We'll also give you additional information on the foundation. And again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. I'll send out my contact information as well. Again, thank you so much for
everybody.
spending your Friday afternoon with us. Eliza, thank you as always. You're wonderful.
Thank you. It's great to do.
We really appreciate the partnership.
Yes.
And everyone have a great weekend. We'll see you on the next one.
Have a good one.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.